A true spiritual school functions beyond ordinary knowledge. Like this figure drawing by Leonardo, a school points the way. Our job is to recognize its energy, to sense its source, and to decide whether to follow the direction it indicates. The first contact and recognition of a school marks the disconnection from the descending current of life and the connection to an ascending current. George Gurdjieff, who brought the fourth way to the West, said, "It's the passage from one river to another." The fourth way describes how fragmented a human being is. We are not as unified as we believe we are. Like this lion, we are composed of many creatures, many parts. Thoughts, feelings, emotions follow one another ceaselessly, each for no more than a handful of seconds. We call them the many eyes. Everything that comes to us from outside becomes a stimulus to which we react. A person, a landscape, a pleasure, a pain, a compliment, a criticism. We can only react, and at first there is no other choice. In schools, with work on consciousness, one begins to form a group of eyes that can observe the many manifestations of the machine. This part can observe the eyes and eventually control them. It can also support the part in us that desires the higher. It is called the steward. It begins to set the house in order, preparing it for the arrival of the master. The master is our true self, our highest part, our soul, also called third eye, the witness, or higher centers. The poet Rilke said, "Angel and puppet, now there is a play." Each of us is, together, angel and puppet, higher self and lower self. We are split in two. The spiritual work allows these two parts in us to meet. Beyond the puppet, we start to see the angel. I'm reading a book. As I read, I divide my attention. I am aware of the pages in front of me, and at the same time of the fact that I am here. In other words, I remember myself. I include myself in the present. I am present. In Leonardo's Annunciation, Mary gives her full attention to the angel while remembering to keep her place in the book with 2 fingers. Over the centuries, spiritual teachers have created symbols that represent the state of self-remembering. Symbols of presence are often common between spiritual traditions. A school brings together a conscious teacher and students. Everyone, to climb, must put someone else in his place. A school is a collective movement upward, the only way possible. Our school draws from other spiritual schools, East and West, old and new. They all convey the same conscious message. Conscious beings as well throughout the centuries convey a conscious message. For example, in Rembrandt we see the work of a conscious man. Rembrandt's consciousness speaks to our consciousness even centuries after his time. The work on consciousness in schools applies to all aspects of the human machine. To recognize essence, that part we are born with, and personality, that part we acquire socially through imitating others and which protects essence. In a school, one learns to recognize and tame negative emotions, to be aware of our centers, the independent brains that govern our functions, our instinctive center, our body, our emotional center, the brain that perceives through emotions, our intellectual center, our thoughts, and most importantly, the angel, ourself. Everything one can observe in oneself, noble or ignoble, belongs to the puppet, to the machine. One's body, thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, personal history. Looking deeper, one can find something else that watches all this. Inside oneself, a void and an invisible wind that sustains it, a breath. Self-remembering is the awareness of this active and radiant void, which just observes and is. All spiritual work can be summarized in that state, in one single word: presence.